When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be confusing. Like Swedish techno confusing.
Bark, bark, meow, meow. Dance with me, purple cow. Bark, bark, meow, meow. Ooh, you lovely cow.
Geico makes it easy. With 24/7 access, all you have to do is go to Geico.com and you could save money on car insurance. It just makes sense. Unlike,
Dance with me, purple cow. I like your moves.
Blog Talk Radio.
All right, I was hoping we had our intro music back. I did try to upload it, but no luck, so hopefully next week. But it is our first time back in quite a while. We have been off the air for various reasons, but we are back, and we have a fantastic show tonight. Unfortunately, Ray can't join me, but April from Freqs and Geeks is here to help out tonight. So, April, welcome, and thanks a lot for helping out.
Hello. Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me.
Not a problem at all. We have really kind of two shows in one tonight. The first half hour is going to be Dan Klaes, owner of the Hinsdale House, which is one of the most haunted houses in the state of New York. It's located out south of Buffalo. And then the second half hour, we go out to the Midwest. Johnny Hauser, who's the media rep and basically the expert on the Villisca Axe Murder House, which I know a lot of people are familiar with the story. But it certainly is a sad, incredible, and just downright creepy story. So hopefully Johnny can sum up everything within a half an hour for us there. So he'll be joining us at 8:30. So what have you been up to, April, as far as investigating? You've been out and about at all, or?
I really haven't. I've been traveling so much for work that I haven't gotten a chance to, but we do have an event. RTL has an event coming up December 30th, so right before the new year. And that's going to be at the Beacon Theater, and that's in Hopewell, Virginia, so kind of in rural Virginia. It's this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful old hotel. Lots of really interesting history, not the least of which was that the hotel was at one time meant for just adult shows, if you will. They did a lot of burlesque there, and they showed some pretty choice films of the 1970s, including the infamous Deep Throat. They also do live shows there too. They do a lot of concerts, that kind of thing. It's really a beautiful theater, aside from that weird piece of history, but there's a lot of activity there. We've been there several times, and we have a couple of guest investigators who are coming with us. Not, I think we've talked about him before, but Flip Searles from Paranormal, sure. Paranormal After Party. He's going to be there. Yep. So very excited to see Flip again. Very excited to work with him. We've got a handful of other people too. Terrace Street's coming. It should be a really, really good opportunity to kind of give back to that historical landmark and try and help them with their refurbishment efforts. So really looking forward to it.
That sounds great. Our next big event that's coming up is in January, and we're at the local historical society, which is down in the city of Syracuse, and our who's quickly becoming our good friend, Chris Cesare, is coming back to speak. We had him up here in October to speak at a different location. He agreed to come back and speak at the Historical Association in January. So we're definitely excited about that. He's a very cool guy and just an amazing story with what happened to him. I think I've mentioned this when I was on your show a few weeks ago, but just one of the nicest people, if not the nicest person I've ever met, and certainly in doing this. Just super down-to-earth guy, and should be a lot of fun. So hopefully we can get some people to come out there as well.
Yeah, I heard that interview a couple weeks ago, and he seemed like it. He seemed like just really a cool dude.
He is, and I said to him when he came up in October, I said, "Geez, he is booked every weekend. He's somewhere. It's amazing." And I said, "Don't you ever get tired of telling your story? I mean, you tell it at least once every weekend, if not more than that." And he said, "No, as long as people want to hear it, he's more than happy to tell it about what happened to him." And he puts a kind of a cool spin on it too, about, it puts more of a positive spin, not just, it is scary what happened, but he turns it around and puts a positive spin on it. So it's kind of neat, It's not just for show. It's certainly not just for show. It's very legit and just a great story. So I definitely recommend if you're able to get him on your show sometime. He'd probably be more than happy to come on
love that.
And talk. Yep, and talk to everybody. So yeah, that's. We're doing a Paracon actually the week before that with him as well. I forgot about that. It's out in Rochester, which is about an hour and a half west of Syracuse, and halfway between us and Buffalo. So that'll be our first Paracon that we're doing. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, other than that, it was a quiet November and pretty quiet early December up here as well. And now our weather starts to get pretty crazy lately, so it may be slow again. Yeah, they're saying a couple feet of snow again this Thursday.
Oh my gosh, I can't move around and stuff like that. Like anything north of the Mason-Dixon line, it's not because I'm like this, Southern belle or anything like this. It's straight up because I can't take the cold. Like anything north of that, and I turn into an icicle.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be in around -10 or -15 on Thursday, with 1 to 2 feet of snow possible. So
nope,
that's a
big old nope. It's just a mountain of nope right there.
You can imagine we don't get too many requests for investigations when it's like that. So.
Yeah. I mean, it would be awful if you actually had a haunting at your house. That would be terrible because you would basically be snowed in with this thing that you would be scared of. You know what I mean? That's terrible.
Right. It is.
At least in the summertime, things start getting crazy. You can go outside and just kind of look at the house like,
yeah, right.
I don't know if I'm going to go back there. In the wintertime,
And that's a great point to think about, to kind of, as we wait for Dan to call in here, to segue into his story that he's going to tell, is that this house in Hinsdale, New York, I said it was south of Buffalo, it's right smack in the snow belt as well, and it's a house from the 1800s, so I got to imagine at some point something like that probably happened to the people that live there.
People got snowed in with spirit.
Sure. And from the sounds of it, it's some pretty scary stuff. And at least the family that lived there in the 70s experienced some pretty crazy and wild stuff that I'm hoping Dan can talk about. I know he's written a book about it, and they've been on Paranormal Lockdown, as well as a couple other shows. So just waiting for him to call in. He said he should be calling in any minute. But as far as the second half goes, I think I've mentioned to you guys before that I'm a history teacher. I have a master's in history, so the whole story of the Villisca House is fascinating to me. I read up a lot on it today. I'd known a little bit about it, but it's such a mystery as to what happened. Just an incredible mystery, and I can't wait to be able to talk to Johnny about that and see how much he knows about it, and if he knows anything other than what's been published.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm really excited to hear about the Hinsdale House. And like I said, I haven't really heard a whole lot of I haven't really heard a whole lot about it. So I always love hearing about these new places because you get into that rhythm. Like if you've been around in the paranormal as long as you and I have, you get into that like, oh, okay, the everybody wants to hear about the Winchester Mystery House and everybody knows about. There's so many locations that people already know about that, are just common.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They're on everybody's top 10 list and that kind of thing. And whenever you find something that's like this little gem that not everybody has, gone after, it's kind of like, I almost feel like a hoarder. I'm always like, oh, no, mine. Shh. Don't tell anybody.
Right.
No, I want to go next, So I love hearing about new places.
And if you ever see the picture of the house it's the most unassuming, rundown country farmhouse you could imagine. It looks creepy just because it's old and it's boarded up, but outside of that, it's not any place that I think somebody would pick out and say, yeah, I would definitely want to go to that place. I can't wait to be able to go out there. Like I said, I know that everybody that's been there, all the stories say that there's some crazy stuff going on. And Dan's just called in. He's with us right now, so let me go over and click over to him, and we'll welcome him here. Dan, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. This is Kevin, and tonight I have special guest co-host, April, who does one of our other shows on here. She's on with me tonight instead of my normal co-host.
Wonderful.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you, April?
Good, good. Can't complain. Excited to talk to you.
Oh, I'm excited to talk to you guys.
I guess I didn't realize this, but I think you just did this last night, too, for one of our other shows, huh?
I did. Hey, I don't turn down the gig, that's for sure. Anytime I get a chance to talk about this place, I will.
I gotta, I know that you mentioned I think you mentioned it on the website, that this is a paranormal investigator's dream to be able to buy the house. And it really is. I mean, that's just amazing. When this came up, you must have been ridiculously excited.
I was excited and scared at the same time because I was in the process of buying a family home as well at the same time when I put the bid in for the house. And I'm like, I didn't know how I was going to do it. I said, if this comes together and this works out, then it's meant to be. And it did. It's unbelievable. People came through with me, lent me a little bit of money so I could get the deposit. My wife thought I was nuts. She still thinks I'm nuts.
Unreal. You must have a super understanding wife. That's all I got to say. Cause
I'll tell you what, she's amazing. Yeah. She's super amazing. She supports me wholeheartedly with what I do, and there's been a lot of times where it's taken away from her and the family, but
for sure,
it's she knows it's my dream, and I'm living my dream. So she's totally supportive of it.
That's fantastic. I mean, had you ever had the opportunity to go into the house before you bought it?
I have. Yeah. That's why I was so drawn to it in the first place. I mean, I started going there in the end of 2010, beginning of 2011. Now, I didn't go there often, but I mean, the first time I ever went there, I knew nothing about the place. My Greater Western Paranormal Society, the team that I'm involved with, the co-founder booked the investigation, and we all went up there not knowing it. He said, I don't want you guys to research the location. He had us all sit in the living room and watch the episode of A Haunting. And we all looked at each other and we're like, we're sitting in this house where this demon was, and there was this exorcism, and you didn't tell anybody, you son of a pup, what the hell? But that night was amazing.
I can't even say that I would be okay with
that.
So
cool. Yeah, no, it was, but ever since the first night I was there, I was just drawn to the place, and I felt like I needed to go back, and I started learning about it more and more and more and more, and found out that it was more than just an exorcism. There's got to be a reason why these spirits don't leave. They're stuck there. They're not. They're not going anywhere.
And that's what I was actually going to. I know we're real short on time tonight, but I was going to get into that in a second. Because that was definitely one of the questions I had for you. Can you just talk real quickly about, I know really, as far as we know, the haunted history of it starts in the early 1970s with Claire and Phil Dandy, correct?
That's where it got most popular, but there's a lot more haunted history to it.
Okay, well, that's what I was wondering.
So let me just get, I'll give you a little bit of background here. I mean, so the original property was, it was 100 acres, 100-acre lot, and the town of Hinsdale had their hanging tree on the property where they hung people for their wrongdoings. There was a way station and a stagecoach trail that went through there. There's a psychic by the name of Tanis that came through, and he and a couple other psychics had these premonitions of these gentlemen that lived in a house in the 1800s when it was a way station and a stomping ground for people to chill at for a while they were making their way between Philadelphia and Buffalo and Pittsburgh.
Right.
And these gentlemen supposedly would, kill people, rape the girls, steal the goods on these stagecoaches, bury their bodies in the basement or the crawl space of the house, and then when the winter came or thawed, they would bury the bodies out in the forest. I feel like when property got bought in the late 60s and they subparceled the land out and they started digging up all this stuff and building ponds on all the properties, I don't know. Sure. I feel like they may have unearthed things that they shouldn't have unearthed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's kind of fishy because from the time that the land was purchased from the owners that owned it, to when the Dandy family moved in, when the exorcism, or, you know, when the stuff started happening in the house, all the poltergeist activity, Ed and Lorraine Warren stopped by for some reason in there, and I'm just trying to get to the bottom of all that as well, you know, like, why they don't just come to places on a whim, you know, there's got to be something happening.
Sure.
So that's kind of like the big mystery for me. Like, I know there's boxes in St. Bonaventure University that are labeled Ed and Lorraine Warren that I can't get at.
I actually might be able to help you out with that. My normal co-host, Ray, our team psychic medium, is very, very, very good friends with. He was good friends with Ed, and is very good friends with Lorraine and their son-in-law, Tony Spira. So I may be able to help you out with that. We can talk more about that off air.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So, you know, some of the things that obviously the property prior to being subdivided had tons of negative energy attached to it in lots of different forms. And, you know, some of the things that I at least had read about when Clara and Phil and their kids lived there, that was when things began. I mean, it started, I guess, relatively benign compared to what it wound up as, right? The activity.
Right. Correct.
You had, you know, knocking on the walls and in different, you know, your typical basic haunting things, but then it really escalated into objects levitating and being.
Yeah.
Right.
Pencils and knives getting put through pictures.
That's, I think.
There's one account too. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just gonna. It might be the same thing you're gonna say, but that incident that Phil had, seeing the faces.
Yes, I was
looking out the window, and that's just unbelievable.
That's crazy.
I'll let you speak to it though. Go ahead, because this is.
No, I mean they were sitting in the living room and saw a face outside the window. They went outside to go see who was out there, and then the face was on the inside of the house looking back at them. And that's actually happened since I owned the house. And you guys know who Carissa Fleck is? You guys know who Carissa Fleck is?
I've heard of her. Yeah.
She what she does is she goes to locations and she stays at them for periods, you know, sometimes months, sometimes weeks, and just documents the paranormal. And I had her there for a week with Nikki Paranormal from Live Paranormal, and they stayed there for a week, and they documented that kind of a similar thing happening in one of the other windows. There was knocking on the glass, but there's no way to knock on the glass anymore because I have metal grates on the windows. So it's not like anybody could stick their finger through there and knock on the glass. It's just really weird.
Yeah, that's very. I mean, it's incredibly bizarre. What, you know, after Claire and Phil sold the house, this activity continued?
Yeah. Well, there was a family that lived there for quite a few years. Their names were the Misniks, who supposedly had a deal worked out with the spirits in the house. But there were many families that came and left after that. You know, there was one account that they don't want me to really mention their name or anything, but this family moved in. They were there for less than 6 months. And they basically one day decided they wanted to get the hell out of that house, and they left everything they owned in the house because they didn't want whatever was there to know they were leaving and not coming back. And they just left all their worldly possessions in the house and never came back. But we have many accounts of families that I spoke to that have lived there after them that didn't stay there very long. They moved in, didn't know, and then left. The Misniks were the only ones that stayed there probably, I'm thinking 6 to 8 years. And I know Flo actually died in the house. She was resuscitated, and then she died later in Buffalo. But I think her spirit's there. I feel like I've communicated with her there. You know, I just feel like there's a lot of spirits that can't leave.
I was just going to say there must be a ton that occupied the premises.
And it's a ton on the land and a ton on the. I wouldn't say a ton on the inside of the house. There's probably more on the land than there is in the inside of the house. But it changes. You can feel it changing. You know, there's a darker spirit that's there, and you can feel the heaviness of the house when it changes when he comes in. But the other, like Laura Dandy, we feel is there. Tim Shaw's been there, and he saw a little girl and you know, basically pictured her to a T when he talked to Clara. about this little girl in bell bottoms and painted a picture of her face for Claire, and she's like, oh my God, that's my Laura. You know, she committed suicide later, and now she's back at the house. You know, we get her there once in a while.
So let me ask you before go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say one other quick thing. I mean, Laura loved what's that Vicks Vapor Rub? She liked putting that on at night, something that kind of calmed her down a little bit. And another thing, when Carissa was there, she brought the Vicks Vapor Rub, and she had set it down in Laura's room, and when they came back, there was a fingerprint in the Vicks Vapor Rub.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. That is crazy. Jeez. I was going to ask you, why do you think they're still there? I mean, we know as investigators there's lots of reasons why they could be there, but why do you think that they're still there? Why do you think that ones like Laura return there?
I honestly, I don't know. I don't want to blame. Maybe the land's cursed. Maybe the property's cursed. I mean, it was sacred land at one point. You know, all the way dating back to the 1600s with the Hopewell Indians. I mean, there's Hopewell Indian burial grounds up on the hill. There's 4 of them documented up there. But then again, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's something darker, that's sinister, that's keeping spirits from leaving or crossing over. I just don't, you know, we haven't been able to pinpoint it yet, but I feel like the more we learn, the more history we get, the more we can uncover, you know, the more that we're hopefully be able to get some answers and help some of the spirits out there, because it's been tried over and over and over again, and nothing can help the spirits from leaving. Yeah. No. It's sad.
Yeah, without a doubt. April, I'm sorry, I don't want to monopolize all the time here, so I'll toss it over to you if you want.
No, I was actually just reading about the house a little bit, and of course, one of the websites that I went to had sound to it. I don't know if you guys caught that, but I was trying to frantically turn it off.
No, I didn't hear anything.
Oh, good. That's really good. Well, I've noticed here that it's only about 8 hours to your house from mine. I'm just saying. It seems
maybe
like a lot of people have had. Yeah. Hey, I'll make a weekend of it. I'll come right up there, you know. No, it seems like it's a really active location. Like, I was looking at a lot of the people that had experiences. There was even one woman who had commented that she had visited right after the Dandies moved out of the house. They left. And she had just gone over there just to see how brave she was, along with some of the locals. And unfortunately, they were only able to stand about 30 minutes before they ran out of there screaming for their lives, basically. I thought that was really interesting. And, you know, I'm your Huckleberry. I wouldn't mind being a little frightened, so kind of down.
Yeah, I think you guys should check it out. I mean, it's not for nothing. I mean, I don't want to kill people with, like, money and stuff like that. You know, I've been there. I know it's tough being a paranormal investigator.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's, you know, it's not like a typical location where I'm asking people to pay thousands of dollars to come there. Mm-hmm. Just trying to keep the bills paid and keep the house in a position where it's not going to fall down. Or, you know, we've done so much in the year and a half that I've owned it. You know, we've got a new roof, new electrical, new heating. I mean, just we've brought it back up to a point where it's stable. So,
and quite honestly, Dan, you know, like you said, this is a place that still, even though it has all this stuff going on, there's still something to be discovered here. There's still the reasons why. So that's the importance of keeping it around. I mean, yeah, it's a piece of history. It's a haunted piece of history, but it's also still not fully. Not fully investigated, or however you want to put it. But, you know, the conclusion hasn't been reached yet. Yes,
and
absolutely.
That's where I need help from every team that comes in, every team that is good at what they do. You know, anything that they can find. You know, I'm starting a paranormal database for the house with the guys from Paranormal Warehouse, and awesome. I'm starting to upload all the information that I have, all the newspaper clippings, all the hard things that people would look for when they're going into research a location, so they have it at their fingertips, as opposed to having teams research, spend all these hours researching it. You know, every team is going to be able to upload their whatever they get there. I got this EVP of this woman. I got this, you know, and we can hopefully put names to the history. And really, I don't know. I need to find out more. I got to get into St. Bonaventure University. It's my biggest goal right now is to get those boxes of you know, from Father Trudeau that did the exorcisms there that are labeled Lorraine Warren.
Yep.
I feel like there's information in there that I need to. And as the owner of the house, I think I'm entitled to it since it happened at my house.
Well, sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. Yes, without a doubt.
But tell that to the Catholic Church, huh?
All you got to do is you just got to find the one right person. There's one person out there. Yep. That will definitely help you with that.
Well, in all reality, I mean, if the church is using a government subsidy for their land, which inevitably they are, then couldn't you then file a Freedom of Information request for that information from the church, which is technically on government property?
I've never tried that.
If nothing else, I would make it real scary. Make my request a little scary and be like, you know, as long as they're on government subsidy, which inevitably they are.
Right.
So I actually
I think that would definitely work.
Yeah. I mean, you never know. You might as well try it. Try it.
I will definitely look into that.
For sure. I know we had spoken a little bit earlier today, Dan, but we are super excited to be coming out there. We're lucky enough to come out in early May, and you know, I can't wait. You know, absolutely can't wait. I know we just got a couple minutes left, but the majority of our time, obviously, we want to talk about the house, but also, you know, I'd like you just to talk about your group maybe in some other places you guys have been, because I certainly want to throw that out there to people that are listening too.
My group is Greater Western York Paranormal Society. We do a show for Paranormal Reality TV on the Roku called Behind the Shadows. And we've been, in the past 8 years, we've been probably all the way as far as the Midwest, all the way across the Northeast. I mean, Burlington County Jail, up in New Jersey. I mean, just so many different places. The Willows Weep in Indiana was an amazing location if you ever get a chance to go out there.
That's in my top 10.
Right. What's that?
That's definitely in my top 10. That's probably my top 5. Want to go to next kind of thing.
It was. We've had such a weird experience there. The Riviera Theater in North Tonawanda, New York. Just just from a personal, you know, it's probably one of the craziest places. I mean, I had a shadow figure pass right in front of me, and it was kind of one of the freakiest things that's ever happened to me. You know, I've never been up that close to one before, and it was literally I could reach out and touch it, and it walked into a wall.
Wow.
I mean, there was a laser grid going, and the laser light was not passing through this thing, whatever it was. It had some mass to it. It was pretty creepy to see it with my own eyes.
That is amazing. So if people want to get a hold of you to come out and investigate the house, or if they're interested in the group, what's the best way to go about that?
HauntedHinsdaleHouse.com or GWNYPS.com. If you Google my name, you'll see I'll pop up all over the place. You'll find me, Daniel Klaes, Klaes. I mean, just go. If you Google Haunted Hinsdale House, even you'll find it. You'll find a way to get in contact with me. Very open, so.
Very cool. Like I said, I can't wait to come out there in May with the group, and everybody is very excited, and certainly hoping we find something that not only for us but to help you out as well. And I'll be in touch with you off air about some of the other things that we talked about, and maybe we'll be able to help you out in that regard as well.
That'd be awesome, dude. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Thank you very much for coming on tonight on short notice. I know you got your show to do, so good luck with everything, Dan, and I'll be talking to you soon.
I'll see you in January, right? You're going to be at the Winterfest?
Oh, yeah, that's right. We will be there. Yes. Yep. Yeah. We'll definitely see you there.
See you in January. Cool.
Fantastic.
Okay, thanks for,
take care.
Thanks for talking. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right. Good
Sounds
talking to you.
Bye. Very cool. April?
Yeah, definitely. I just donated a little bit of money to him, so I'm hoping that'll help him out a little bit.
Yeah,
gotta keep it around so I can go visit it.
Yes, I definitely think there's more there to discover, just like you said. Even though there's so much activity there already, so
sure.
We will head out to the Midwest now. Going from one creepy house to an even creepier house.
I love
at this point, but yes, I know it's a great night for this. It's perfect. So we have Johnny Hauser, who is the media rep and the expert on the Villisca Axe Murder House in Villisca, Iowa. He is on with us, so I'm going to click over and we'll welcome him. Hi, Johnny. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. How are you doing?
Good. How are you? My name's Kevin, and this is April. She's my co-host tonight. My regular co-host isn't available, so she's hello.
Hello.
Thanks so much for coming on at short notice. I really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. I'm always up to talk about weird stuff.
Well, this definitely qualifies, without a doubt. So I guess April and I were talking a little bit earlier. I guess people kind of generally know what happened there, but do you want to just give a quick rundown of the history of the house and the family and the Moores and what happened?
Absolutely. It was June 9th, 1912. The town of Villisca, which is this little tiny town in southwest Iowa, about 1,500 people today. Back then it was around 4,000 people, quite a bit bigger. But the town had a church service which got over about 10 p.m. at night. And the Moores, which were a family of 6, come home with 2 little girls named Ina and Lena Stillinger. And they were just friends with their daughter, Catherine, and decided to have a sleepover. Next day, about 4 or 5 a.m., the neighbor, Mary Peckham's, waking up. By 8:30, she had decided something's not right here. So she gets a relative to use his key. He goes into the downstairs bedroom, and that's where he found Ina and Lena Stillinger, 2 little girls in bed. He gets the authorities. They go upstairs and find 6 more bodies. So sadly, there were 8 total, 6 young kids, 2 adults, all hit with the blunt end of an axe while they were in beds. But what was weird about it was the killer covered up the mirrors. He left raw bacon on the floor. He made himself something to eat. He took the time to place these objects around the house in a strange fashion. And, you know, by the time any detectives get here, the whole town had spent the day, like, wandering through to look at what happened, thus destroying all the evidence. And detectives searched for 5 years, you know, looking for suspects, and there were hundreds of suspects. Never has been solved to this day. It's still an unsolved mystery. There was a minister named Reverend Kelly who confessed to it, and he was the only one tried. He's talking about voices and telling him slay utterly, and he climbed Jacob's ladder to heaven, and voices said, suffer the children unto me, and he goes, I killed everybody. And he's like, no, I didn't. Yes, I did. Maybe I did it. Maybe you did it. He was an odd guy, definitely. But what was very strange to me as a paranormal researcher, in 1918, in his confession, he goes, I followed a shadow, and the shadow said, I am the door, and handed me an axe. Now, in 1918, nobody's really talking about shadow figures, you know?
Right.
But I can remember when shadow figures were aliens, then they were interdimensional time travelers, and now they're bad ghosts, you know?
Yeah,
so,
right.
You know, that part of his confession always really creeped me out, because it's like, what is a shadow? And if you go through different crimes, you know, say Ronald DeFeo with the Amityville house, he's changed his confession many times, but one of the first ones was a shadow was telling him to kill, you know, and that whole angle of things just really creeps me out. But
it's, you know, listening to the story. Go ahead.
The shadow must have been very, you know, intriguing. They must have really convinced him.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, and I've never thought of that angle of it, but you know, if
I see a shadow and it's like, you know, kill, I just be like, no, I think I need to go. I think I need to get out of here. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm good. No. I don't need to do that.
And one of the one of the really intriguing things I think about this as first and foremost as a crime is that how do you, this is simply a rhetorical question, but how do you kill 8 people and nobody manages to wake up or escape or run or make it to the door? I mean, to me that just seems incredibly odd, unless you're just so efficient, this sounds awful, but that you kill everybody with one hit. But from the sounds of it, from reading the little information we have about the crime report, is that it doesn't really seem like that was the case. It seems like maybe there was a couple of hits or a couple of swings on at least several of the people there. I mean, do you know anything about that angle of it, Johnny?
Yeah, they were absolutely hit multiple times, and I'm talking a lot of times each.
Right.
Way overdone. And, even there were theories of a hired hit. You had 5 years of gossip, basically. So you had every theory and every angle you could think of. But, even with hardened criminals, like I would think somebody would have a hard time going to find some hardened criminal to kill some kids. Little kids
absolutely.
Off limits.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was going to be my follow-up. Yeah, that's exactly right. And go ahead.
There's axe marks in the ceiling still to this day. It wasn't a quiet crime. He's hitting into the ceiling. It kind of goes into the Ronald DeFeo Amityville thing. How can you shoot those people and nobody wakes up?
And nobody wakes up. That's what I don't understand. I was just as I'm reading through today, rereading some of the specifics, that's what really struck me as odd. I mean, they said that maybe one of the girls put up a little bit of a fight or a little bit of a struggle, but that was basically it.
Exactly. The oldest Stillinger had a defensive wound on her forearm where it looked like she went up to block, but we have no crime scene pictures. It's was she sleeping with her arm on her head? Because they were hitting the head only, nothing below the neck. Was she sleeping that way? Did she wake up as he's coming down with it? There's just so many questions we don't know.
It's so frustrating. It's so
exactly.
It's so frustrating. So I guess let's transition over into the paranormal aspect of this now. What kinds of stuff have been reported there that you know of or that you've experienced?
I've been here for about 10 years, and, I've experienced the residual. I've experienced intelligent. I've experienced poltergeist activity. I mean, it honestly, at this point, it seems like it is just so full of stuff that doesn't even belong there that it's just a beacon. And it's changing. It changes constantly. I've had a lot of our overnights come back multiple times, which, I love because you become friends with the people. And I've done easily over 300 overnights there myself, and every overnight is completely different. It's like a different location each time.
It's so funny that you're saying that. I mean, I know that you came in just at the very end of our previous interview, but we were speaking with Dan Klaes, who owns an extremely haunted house outside of Buffalo, New York, called the Hinsdale House. And he was saying exactly the same thing. He's saying that every time somebody goes in there, it's like there's so many, it's like there's a different entity or entities there all the time. Sometimes they're fine, sometimes they're not. It runs the whole gamut of everything. So that's so funny that you're kind of echoing exactly what he just said. What's your theory on that?
Interesting.
Yeah.
And, I have a lot of respect for people that work in these homes because, we're here day after day, during the day, during the night. Like, there's no going home to your normal life. And you're going to have to pardon my way of putting this. I live out in the country here, but it's like you go out in the woods and turn on a flashlight, you got every insect in the entire woods flocking to it. And I think you get a location where you got a revolving cast of people wanting to communicate, I mean, if you're a ghost and you have something to say, that's where you're going to go. It's like Grand Central Station, these places.
Yeah, that's
right,
true.
for sure.
That's true. That's a very good. I guess I never really thought of it like that. That makes a lot of sense, though, for sure.
Go ahead. When I very first came to the Axe House, I've always been into weird things from aliens to Bigfoot. But the one thing, the questions I always had when I started really investigating the Axe House and using it as like almost a controlled place to where I could try things. It's like, you know, if houses are haunted, why aren't they haunted all the time? How do we talk to those? Do they have eardrums? Do they have vocal cords to talk to us? You know, there's so many questions. And that's what I love about this field. It's just still so wide open.
Mm-hmm. Now I know that you probably don't do the tours at the house. I don't know. There's probably somebody else that does the tours, but has anybody ever experienced anything that you know of while on a tour of the house? And I know it's not a real big house, but has anybody ever heard any stories about things happening while people are just there on a regular tour?
Oh, absolutely. We one story in particular that comes to mind is that during the day tours, it's a lot of at our place. It's a lot of true crime buffs, just in for the history. A lot of them don't believe in ghosts. They don't even want to hear that angle. And I'll just give the history. I'm good with that. But we had about 15 people in the living room, and I'm just talking with them about various suspects, and ideas and bouncing off theories. And we all start walking to the kitchen. Well, there's about a 30-pound iron on the back of the cook stove. And that thing is probably about 1 p.m, literally flew across the kitchen. A kid had to move, otherwise it would have nailed him right in the leg and fell down. And everybody saw it, and those 15 people shot out of that house so quick.
Oh, man.
There was other times, it's usually about 30 minutes and people start filtering out. And it'd been 2 hours into the day and nobody's leaving. So I go in the house. Nobody's downstairs. I go upstairs in the kids' room. There's about 30 people crammed in there. And the kids' room closet door is opening and shutting on command. There's a little kid saying, "Will you open the door? Can you shut it? Can you open it halfway?" And it's doing it. And
oh my God,
all these people saw this for about an hour and a half. And I don't know how many overnight bookings we got out of that deal. People that didn't believe, and they're like, "Wow, this is legit." And I'm like, "Yeah, I told you."
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Incredible.
And I've spent, 10 years looking for patterns with anniversaries, moon phases, birth dates, anything. And I've seen very little rhyme or reason to it. It just seems to happen when it happens. Other times, I think the people that come in and the attitudes they have.
Sure. Oh, sure. Yep. Absolutely.
I'm alive. I'm alive, and I don't want to talk to a jerk. So why would it go? Nurses, teachers, people of that profession, and have a lot of luck. And I think being very open and very loving, like a kind soul, I think that has a lot to do with it.
That's so funny. I'm a teacher, so that's so funny you say that. That's
But it takes a certain person to be a teacher, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
For
sure.
You have to be very into what you do and very passionate about it. Very, very much passionate to help people, and it's just a good soul.
And let me ask you, and this is just a kind of a personal opinion of yours, but have you ever noticed, you talked about patterns, have you ever noticed, maybe, I'm sure on occasion over the last 10 years, you've gotten to say groups of teachers or groups of, social workers or people along those lines, as opposed to, say, groups of engineers or groups of mathematicians. Does the energy and does the activity increase when you have groups that are made up predominantly of people like that, as opposed to maybe more scientific, concrete people? Have you ever noticed any pattern like that?
I haven't noticed any pattern of that. It seems like in our house, which is, just one place out of many, it seems like it just has its moods, it has its days, and for whatever reason, sometimes it's just on fire that day, and it reacts to certain people. When it's on fire, it reacts to certain in those groups more than others. You know, there's many times.
I do, yes.
Many times there's been people down there that have had the exact same recorder, two of them sitting next to each other on the same settings. One gets an EVP, one doesn't.
One doesn't. Yep.
Yeah, it's like how. It's almost like they're choosing who to reveal themselves to.
And what you're saying now makes so much sense to me. You know, it's a very long story, but based on a place up here in Syracuse where we do a lot of our investigating, it's an old mansion that's haunted. But our team has come to the conclusion of exactly what you just said. We can have groups of people in there, and the house will be super responsive, and we can have other groups, and not a thing will happen. And we kind of batted around why, and that is the same conclusion that we came up with, is that it depends on who's there, and it depends on the entities knowing if that person is an open-minded person or if that person will be more receptive. So that's kind of a little validity on that's very cool to me, because that's validity for what our team has been dealing with as well.
Absolutely,
very interesting point.
And I love talking with people in the field like you. You're halfway across the country from me. We've never talked before, but we're finding common ground that is consistent within the paranormal, and that's awesome.
Yeah, that is. I can't die. I mean, I'm super. I obviously love the story about the house and all the cool things of the crime and that stuff. But what you just said probably resonates the most with me out of everything, because it totally backs up what we've been going through. April, I don't. Again, I'm probably talking too much. I apologize. I didn't know if you wanted to jump in.
No, that's all right. I'm looking up airline tickets to Villisca.
Come on down.
We keep talking about all these awesome places, and I'm just like, you know what? I gotta go. I gotta go there. I gotta see it. I need to put my hands on things. I need to be in the environment. So,
well, give me a heads up before you. Give me a heads up before you come. I'll get them fired up in there for you. So it's a good night.
Oh yeah. Oh, you know what? I don't even know that I want that. No, I don't know. I don't know if I can handle Villisca. Villisca might be above my pay grade, but I'll give it a shot.
Well, like half the overnights I've done there, nothing happened. It's just so random. You know this. It's just so random and sporadic. But the 100-year anniversary of the murders, I'm like, man, I've been waiting for this. I'm sitting in here by myself. About 10 p.m., I'm texting my buddy. It's like, dude, if you don't hear from me by 8, call my preacher down here. Like, it's going to be bad. And nothing happened at all.
Oh, man.
Right. Like, all right.
I always tell people that it's a little bit like fishing, You might sit there for hours and hours and hours and not get anything, but that one time you get that bite, you're just like, that's it, I'm hooked forever and ever. I'm a fisherman. Like, now all I want to do is go fishing,
Exactly. Like, you just keep throwing out lures, something's going to bite eventually.
Yep.
And kind of to back up a little bit, talking about Villisca as a whole, the name Villisca means absolutely nothing. There's no Villiscas anywhere in the world. This is the only one. Mm-hmm. And it's because it's actually Waliska.
I saw that, yes.
The Sac and Fox Native Americans all lived here, and they named it that, which means evil spirit. And this is all Sac and Fox burying grounds throughout the whole town. So, that may add to all this.
And I heard, too, that in this... What's that, April? I'm sorry.
I said, well, that is terrifying.
Yes. And I heard, and again, we're not sure how much we can trust this, Johnny, but that they saw when the investigators came to the house, there was actually a moccasin footprint, if I'm not mistaken, right, leading from the house.
Yeah, there was, according to the coroner report, there was a footprint. It didn't quite say yes or no. I've heard that before as well. It just kind of leaves that pretty open. One thing I have found going through the old newspapers. I started from the 1800s and the microfiche machine, and went a couple years, and I was looking for strange deaths in this town, and I found a bunch. I didn't count the struck by lightning or hit by train, because that happened a bunch.
Right.
But I also found in these old, and it's going to sound like a total line, but this is absolutely true. The drugstore here in town is called Stoner Drug, which I think is kind of humorous, but back in the day, it used to be Honeyman's, and they had it for about 2 years. They made their own cold elixirs, and they would advertise in the paper. And for 2 years, this new cold elixir they were trying to push, saying, runny nose, sore throat, stuffy head, take our new elixir. And I kid you not, the name of it was 666.
Oh,
really?
Nice.
And I'm like,
wow.
What town did I just move to?
Yeah, right.
So where am
what a
I?
bizarre, that is so bizarre.
Yep.
Jeez. I was going to ask you, you talked about the group that saw the door opening and closing. I don't think that, and this is a good thing, but I don't think that we've ever talked to anybody, and I know we've never investigated any place before, where there's been so many deaths at one time of young kids. I have to imagine that has some kind of impact greater than normal on the house and the energy that's there. Do you sense any of the kids, or any of the kids, I know you said there's a lot of different entities there, but do you ever get any of the kids? Do they come through? Are they still around?
There's a lot of people get Catherine, Ina, and Lena. But what concerns me is a lot of the stuff that's happening is not that of a child, a 12-year-old in 1912. And I'm of the mindset where I'm like, okay, if you're something bad, what a better opportunity to pretend to be a kid.
I knew that's where you're. I knew that's where you're going with this, and I was wondering that. Yep, that's disturbing, definitely.
It's like when I was really investigating the Axe Murder House. We live right next door, Mary Peckham's house. Right. I mean, we're 10 feet away. My daughter, is about 3 at the time, starts talking about Hattie this, Hattie that, and I'm like, whatever, imaginary friend. Well, it gets to the point where she won't even go in my house. And I'm like, Grace, what's the matter? She goes, Hattie's mean to me. And I'm like, who is Hattie? I'm tired of hearing about Hattie. Yeah. He goes, that's the woman upstairs. I'm like, okay, that's kind of odd. So I'm thinking about it. And that's an old name for a little kid. I don't know Hattie. I call up everybody I know, all family members. Nobody knows Hattie. I'm hoping to hear, great-grandmother Hattie's watching over from heaven. No, nobody knows Hattie. Right.
Nobody.
I mean, stuff's going on like crazy in our house. When Darwin Lynn, who bought the Axe Murder House, passed away, I was going over the deeds. Now, Mary Peckham died 6 months after the murders from a nervous breakdown, and the house went to her adult daughter, Hattie, which... there's no way that this could have been made up. It's like a horror movie plot. And then things started happening at my house. That's a whole. I'm going to have to come on here sometime and just tell the whole story, because it goes on
definitely
for quite a while.
Yeah. Wow. I have so many questions. And I hope the kids aren't there. I hope the kids and the families in heaven, and they don't care about what's happening on Earth at all. Right.
I hope that's the case. But it scares me that so much is happening at this house, and it's changing so much, and it's not something a 12-year-old in 1912 would be doing. Right. And that's what concerns me a little bit. Yep. And the whole shadow thing, living next door.
Sure.
If I see a shadow walk by my window, I'm gone.
Yeah.
There's something that that I've been kind of reading about lately, and I think that it might be something, it might be something that would be worth trying at Villisca, but it's scrying with an old school scrying mirror, because it's the theory being that because it's something that was older, because it's something that the spirits might be able to recognize a little bit more readily, as opposed to something that's super electronic and has all these bells and whistles and lights on it. So it's a little bit more, so if it is, a human entity that would be there, then maybe they would be a little bit more disposed to trying to communicate using that scrying mirror.
Absolutely. I love going back and trying old techniques that have been forgot about, because we don't know. We can go in with a K2 meter and it does its, we got things that seem to kind of work now and then, but I like to try everything.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what's happening.
Yep. Absolutely right. You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, exactly. And, I've had people come into the house with speaking spells, and it's like, they didn't really have those in 1912, but
right.
Try her out. Maybe it'll do something. Who knows?
Right. Now, I know that Darwin and his wife that restored the house, right, to basically what it was like.
Yeah, the town was going to bulldoze it in '94, and Darwin owned the town museum. He's like, you can't bulldoze it. It's horrible, but it's our history. And they bought it to go with the town museum. It was a historical thing. People wanted to stay the night, and Darwin's like, why? They're like, paranormal investigating. And Darwin, I'll never forget, looks at me and he whispers, what's a paranormal? It's like, it wasn't a thought at all.
Right. Sure.
Darwin always said that the paranormal just happened. And if you go back from 1918, when the bank offered 6 months free rent on up, there's quite a bit of paranormal claims from 1925. Homer Ritter and his wife, stayed 2 nights. They left claiming to hear footsteps, and then a family lived there 18 years and said nothing happened. So
exactly. It's very, very cool, and unfortunately we're out of time already, so I definitely would like to have you come back on sometime. I know. I got so much more I want to ask you. If you would agree to it sometime in the future, I'd love to have you come back. So, and,
I'd love to.
Tell us this. And that'd be great. Tell us a story about your house.
Yep. We can get into how the moon's a robot, Bigfoot, aliens, and ghosts, and the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great. We're always up for that. So, again, thank you very much for taking the time to come on. I really appreciate it, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks for what you do.
Hey, thank you.
Yep.
Absolutely. Have a great night, Johnny.
You too.
All right, now we got 2 places you got to put on your list.
Oh my gosh, I always end up with so many. Well, Villisca has been on my list for a really long time, so being able to go there would be fantastic. Although I don't really know that going there in January is going to be a good idea.
Yeah, probably not.
No.
Probably definitely more of probably more. Yeah. All right, well, we're down to our last minute here, so thanks for helping me out tonight. And I know you guys aren't on. You said you're not going to be on after this.
Nope,
so
no, we're going to go and cancel.
All right.
All right.
We'll catch up with you next week. Thanks, April.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening in tonight. 2 very cool stories about 2 very haunted houses, and we'd like to have both of those guys back on again in the future. So we hope you enjoyed it, and we look forward to bringing you another good show next week. Have a good night.
When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be confusing. Like Swedish techno confusing.
Bark, bark, meow, meow. Dance with me, purple cow. Bark, bark, meow, meow. Ooh, you lovely cow.
Geico makes it easy. With 24/7 access, all you have to do is go to Geico.com and you could save money on car insurance. It just makes sense. Unlike,
Dance with me, purple cow. I like your move.